Good morning and welcome to More Tea Minister. My name is Ian. This is another one of my festive videos, festive at least in terms of my jumper, but also in the reason for reviewing the particular tea that we have in front of us today, quite literally. In my case, I'm simply picking teas that I've wanted to review for a while and ones which I purchased initially just because they intrigued me so very much. Today we are looking at a tea from Sri Lanka. The vendor is PMD Teas, who specialise in Sri Lankan teas. And it is the Wattegodde Estate Yoxford Oolong Limited Batch Tea. Now, PMDT have got a YouTube video, at the very least a short, relating to this tea. So I will put a link to that in the description box, as well as their own website. But suffice it to say that one of the things that intrigued me is that on the mainstream market, something that an interested amateur like I might have access to, I don't see many Sri Lankan oolongs. And so that made this stand out. I've also bought things from PMD Teas before. And so once you get to know a vendor and you indirect communication with them, that obviously makes you more likely to be interested in what they have to say and what they have to sell. Just a little bit about the story behind this tea. What makes this stand out, as well as it being a Sri Lankan oolong, is that the tea is produced from, I think, the plants themselves are about 150 years old, and they were seedling tea. So those have survived the transformation from their part of the estate, from coffee to tea, and these were sort of legacy plants. Yoxford is a division of the Wattegodde Estate. At one time it was its own plantation, but over time there's sort of amalgamations and divisions and so on and so forth. Now you can go and find out more from sort of umbrella organisations that own this estate or from PMDT, but suffice it to say that you should also take note of where this tea comes from, the Dimbula region, because Sri Lanka, as much as anywhere else, it has its very own very distinctive tea-growing regions, each of which has climatic conditions and soil conditions, all of which make for a particular kind of terroir, and so that's also very dependent on seasonality as well. Put all these things together and you have a tea that is produced in very small quantities, hence it's a limited edition release, and hence we're not going to review this strictly speaking from the criteria of availability, simply as something to be able to, well, investigate and celebrate what Sri Lankan oolong is like. So let's move on to part two, where we're going to take a look at the tea and then we'll move on to review it. See you in a mo. Hello, welcome to part two of our video. This is a close-up of our Yoxford Oolong from Wattegodde Estate. The smell of this tea is absolutely delightful. It's one of those teas that even dried has an incredible intensity of perfume. It's very hard to describe. There's something herbal about it, something almost mentholic, but only slightly. Moving on to the colour and the texture, you can see that these leaves haven't been rolled. They're sort of more twisted in form. They're a fairly uniform colour. There are one or two slightly paler parts, and I wonder if those might be some sort of stem material at the base of the leaves. Generally speaking, however, it's a uniform dark brown colour. Maybe some of it a little greener, some of it venturing into black, but predominantly it's these wonderful, very dark chocolate-coloured leaves, and I'm very much looking forward to giving these a proper sampling. Hello and welcome to part three of our video as we review Yoxford Oolong. I brewed it Western style, and so all we need is our transparent jug and our cup. Don't even need a strainer. As always, the tea has been brewed and strained already. Now, a little bit of guesswork is required here. In preparations for this video, I gave this tea a couple of different brewing attempts at different brewing parameters. I've gone for 90 degrees for the water. I tried 95 as well. My own palate seemed to prefer the 90. 3 grams of tea, 250 mils of water, roughly what a cup of tea, the volume of a cup, for 3 minutes. So let's see what that gives us. I'm wondering whether it might be worth, for some videos, me holding this up against a piece of paper. Maybe that would give you a better chance to see what the colour is like. That is largely what I am seeing. There's a bit more red in it. Maybe I can... There you go. That's what it looks like to me. Mostly yellow with a slight gold tinge and a bit of red as well. It's very perfumey. I think it's only fair to point out that this is not an... You're not going to get the kind of flavour profile of a Taiwanese green oolong, or even necessarily a more oxidised oolong from Taiwan or China or wherever. There are hints of... I'm picking up notes that you might expect from a green kind of Darjeeling first flush. That slightly perfumey vegetal notes, but with something a little muskier as well. Plenty of sweetness. Altogether, I'm really looking forward to this. I don't think I gave the practice runs yesterday a full 3 minutes. I think I gave them slightly shorter time, so... The cup is very complex, not just the usual kind of sweetness. Sweet, fruity, slightly musky. That's musky, not musty. So sort of a ripe fruit quality. There's no bitterness there. It's incredibly smooth. Musky, slightly fruity, perfumey, sweet. It doesn't have the sort of dark fruits that you would get from an oxidized, let's say a Taiwanese oolong. And I could say we're trying to kind of, if you haven't had one of these before, and this is the only one I've had, naturally, we mustn't be thinking in terms of what we already know is what I'm getting at. Let's try another mouthful. Really perfumey. Ripe fruit with a kind of perfumey high note. Sweet, very smooth, no astringency. Very lingering on the palate. It's absolutely lovely. I did try it at 95 and I still didn't pick up any bitterness, but it was missing that. Personally, I couldn't pick up that perfumey note once we got to 95, and perhaps somebody might say that would be better, but it's fabulous. That combination of a musky kind of ripe fruit, plus that higher perfumey note, plus the sweetness, plus the smoothness, almost something spicy there in the background as well. It's lingering on the palate. It's absolutely wonderful. As I say, it reminds me a little of some of the herbal perfumey notes from a first flush Darjeeling, and I have had a couple of first flush Darjeeling oolongs, but they're not going to be produced in the same way as this, oxidized in the same way. It's fabulous. So if you can get hold of it, I would do. It's really, really, really good. We're going to leave off to one side availability because it's a limited release. If you can get some from PMDT, then please do go ahead. I haven't seen it anywhere else, although the estate it comes from, there's a lot of information about that estate from the umbrella group that own it and run it, including details about altitude and how many workers they have, stuff like that. Very good. Brewing, ease of brewing, it's, well, Western style, very, very simple. I'd like 90, you might like 95, you might like a little more tea, a little less tea. If you can get hold of it, I wouldn't use too much for each experiment because it is a limited release. So, in this festive season, it is in fact Christmas Day as of recording. I hope you have a blessed and happy Christmas. And amongst all the frantic running around and the shopping, you have time to rest and be refreshed, and you have a chance to meditate on who it is who makes Christmas what it is. So it remains for me to say happy steeping and God bless.